Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Independence Board of Education, Tuesday, February 18th meeting. If we could call roll, please, Ms. Knapp.
Mr. Avila?
Here.
Mr. Bernstein?
Here.
Mrs. Lasky?
Here.
Mrs. Sears?
Here.
Mrs. Hill?
Here.
And we are in session 6:01.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, our meeting agenda statement. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. We will go into administrative reports.
Yeah.
Mrs. O'Neill, would you like to come up and share with us? Mrs. O'Neill is here from CVCC. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Feels like a minute since I've been here, but not really. I have several things, and you might want to write down these dates, because I have several things I want to share with you this evening. The All Boards Dinner that I know many of you attended, and I, as a brand new board member, was not able to attend, but I know it's lovely. This year it will not be in October. It's going to be in April this year, because what they want to do is have both the construction lab and the cosmetology lab open so people can tour it. And so that'll be open in April sometime. They don't have an actual date. Of course, I'll get that to you as soon as I know it. But they wanted that to be announced, that it would not be until
Of this
April.
year?
Mm-hmm.
Of this year, 25?
No, 25.
This April?
This April.
No.
26?
Yes.
26?
Yes, because October, we would have it in October normally, so it would be
Yes.
in April, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be a year from this April.
Right.
Grants, $120,000 was awarded to CVCC for the Super Rapids Broadband Node Grant. That's a mouthful. The money will be used to create a telecommunications tower technology technician program. And there will be a resolution on our agenda this month, because you have met both your meetings before we have met. We're not meeting until next week. So we're meeting very late this month. So, but on that agenda in February, they will be proposing that we create, some of that funds be used to create an outdoor tower training center. So that is going to be a part of that, and I'm sure that the board will be very amenable to that. I also want to announce that they're going to be using Spielman Electric to help with getting Brecksville to approve all the necessary permissions and things to have that done. And I just love that they use other companies and then they partner with them with the students. So Brecksville will be involved in making sure that all the necessary things are documented for that. And the goal is to have the tower installed and the area ready for installation by the end of this June. So it will be located on the south side of the facility. The Business Professionals of America hosted a competition, and on this past Friday, a Skills USA competition was held, and students traveled to Mahoning County Career Center and Technical Center to compete. And I will share the results as soon as they're posted regarding how our youngsters did. The superintendent created or nominated Mike Hall to serve on the work group to develop new CTE teacher professional development. And we all know how important professional development is. It's the lifeblood for teachers. I mean, they really need it. And so having a special group develop a CTE professional development session is really important, and they're working through the Association of Career and Technical Education group in Ohio. They'll meet weekly via video conference, and they'll be doing this from February through March. And I think this will be a great addition to the new teachers that come on board that need the support. So that, I thought, was a good addition. Speaking of additions, we also have a new board member from Brecksville. As you know, they rotate on that board. And so it's Twinsburg rotated off, and we said goodbye to Rhonda, but we're welcoming Eva O'Mara, who is a Brecksville board member, and she has 48 years of experience in education and 32 years in Brecksville, so she comes with lots and lots of good experience, and she's really a lovely person to work with. So she is our newest board member. As you know, in fact, a couple of you asked me about it, Tuesday, February 25th, next week, is the OSBA Northeast Regional Open House at CVCC, and it is from 5:30 in the evening until 8 o'clock. And there's no fee charged, but they would like you to log in OSBA and sign up if you're going to go, and let them know. There'll be important updates from the region, and there will also be, more importantly, current legislative information that's happening relative to CTE. So I think that that's going to be a worthwhile thing to participate in. I will be attending. They said light refreshments will be served, and I think that's the reason they want to make sure that they can be good hosts and have good accommodations for everybody. So if you'd let them know, that would be great. Another report I wanted to share with you that I thought was really interesting, and all schools are really watching bullying and making sure that there's zero tolerance for that. But they actually are watching and did some data study on what's been happening at CVCC, and the good news is the trend is downward this year. 2021, they had 3 major incidences that they had recorded and reported. In 21-22 school year, they had 4. 22-23, they had 4. 23-24, they had 3. And in the 24-25 school year so far, they've had 0. So they're obviously addressing this issue. Now, that means that we have to remember, that doesn't mean it's eradicated. It means those were reported cases. So they didn't rise to the level that they were reported, but I thought it was really, really good that they have this initiative in place, that they're recording this data, and that we can have ready access to it if we wanted to know about it. So I was happy to have that information shared with us. It's my understanding that the superintendent from CVCC met with the partner districts, and they had an initial meeting, I believe, and then they met individually, and he went around to meet, I guess this recently. In Revere, he discussed middle school coursework there, additional things they'd like to see happening. And Independence, they talked about internships. And at Polaris, he went to meet the new superintendent to welcome that individual. So I thought it was very good to see the superintendent out in the buildings, out in the schools, talking to superintendents, inviting them in, building their comfort level to work with him, and allowing them to share what they think is important and they'd like to see happening through CVCC. So I was pleased to know that and to share that with you. I volunteered to serve on the curriculum committee and on the finance committee this upcoming year, and our first meeting for curriculum is next week. So if you have any curricular concerns or you'd like to see some additions to the curriculum, you can contact me in writing to express your concerns or your suggestions. My email address will be given to you on a handout that I have in just a minute or two. So just forward that to me, and then I will share that in committee. And now I'm going to give you these. Let's take a look-see at this first. It's so much easier for me to not have to just shoot dates out for you. So this is a group of upcoming staff development, and on there I do I have it on there? I think I have it on there, that I have my email address at the top. What is not on here, and you might want to jot down, it's kind of really wasn't very helpful in that regard, but the February 22nd meeting you see there, the upcoming training, that's on managing policy manual, which is always really fun. That's a fun thing to do, is managing policy. And then on the 22nd, that meeting's about real-world case studies and scenarios. So that's probably pretty interesting, because they give you real-life experiences. No information about, well, the other things you know. The 27th is on transportation. So February 22nd, that module that they talk about there is on transportation. On the 28th, the special education is practitioners actually speaking about their experiences and sharing that, and they're also talking about the changes in the legal landscape relative to special ed, which is always changing. And on the next page, on the 28th, that meeting is about safety training, unemployment, compensation, workman's compensation. So those are upcoming things that they're offering to you, and I think they're all, you know, somebody certainly has interest in any of those areas. I couldn't help but print this out because I was very anxious to see where we were going to land with Career Tech in terms of money from the governor. So this is a really nice little synopsis. I just gave you the part that's important to us right now. And at the bottom, I highlighted in yellow some of the things, and it says, one of the things is to continue the state's investments in school choice programs. They didn't say to what degree. Below that, they talk about $10 million over the millennium on Ohio Principal Apprenticeship Program, which I was really happy to hear because we really need support for training administrators, especially principals, to come into the classrooms and work in the schools. They earmarked $12 million for Science of Reading program, and that's to hire tutors and pay coaches. And I thought it was interesting, one little word there says requires, and what they're saying is if your school district is not up to par on test scores, that you are then required to use additional money of your own to support kids in the reading program. $30 million will be put aside for school bus safety programs that are coming down the pike, and $4 million will be put aside for the increased number of training hours from 4 hours to 6 hours for bus drivers. And then we have $7 million for Career Tech. But again, 3 words there, in competitive grants. So that means that we will be applying for those grants to get that money. The money's available, the $7 million, but it just won't be given to us. We'll be in a competitive grant situation to get them, which is fine because we do that and they will do that. On the back, they talk more about the community school facilities. They're upping it from $1,000 per student to $1,500. And then they talk about driver training in schools, the grant program for that, through the Ohio Department of Public Safety. And then they talk about funding, and again, you see those last 2, they don't give numbers, but they're talking about supporting funding for school-based health communities. That's facilities in communities where it's disadvantaged families and they need additional help with their health community and their medical stuff. So that's an important thing, but they didn't put a number on it. And then they put $50 million, which I thought was an interesting number, $50 million over the time period to create a new vision program across the state for K-3 students that would include comprehensive eye exams and glasses as needed. So that's just a nutshell of some of the things that are coming around. Not new. Everything is supporting what we, I think, almost currently have. A couple little nuances there, but I always am interested in the amount of money that they do give for each individual thing. And finally, I just wanted to say that February is Career and Technical Education Month. And it's also 2025 Board Leadership Institute is going to be happening May 2nd and 3rd down at the Hilton at Polaris. So a Board Leadership Institute is always good for any board member, whether they're at CVCC or on a regular board in the district. And I'm sure you know next week is Public Schools Week, February 24th to the 28th, and I'm sure you'll be doing really good things, having something special planned here at school. And that's a whole bunch. So that's what I have for this month, and I guess I'll see you again real soon because we're going to meet next week, and then I'll be back either whenever you wish, if it's that first meeting or second meeting, whatever is best for you, depending on what your agenda looks like. Okay? Questions?
Thank you.
All right, good.
Oh, real quick, I want to tell you that I did attend the Bring Your Parent to Work
Oh,
to
did
School
you?
Day 2 weeks ago. I don't
Did
know when
you?
it was. And this is my second one for a different field. They just do such an exemplary job. The timing, how they lay out coffee and pastries,
I
and,
know.
they have students seat you to the tables, they have students bring you up to the area in the CVCC, and a very regimented schedule. You're there 1 hour. They just do such a phenomenal job. And it's just, again, it is just such a diamond for us in our districts to be able
It
to
is.
have a place like this, so.
Yeah, and so close, too. It's
Yeah.
really great. I have not forgot about what you said about turning right and getting out of there. Do you know how much that annoys me now? It's on my mind every single time I pull out of there. Oh. So I am going to, I'm going to talk to somebody about that. But I laughed so hard because they just finished
I
doing
know.
that road
I know.
work. Who didn't?
I-
Never mind, Linda.
I know.
You're in public, Linda. Okay, see you later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Neill.
And two things, just to follow up from Ms. O'Neill's, review of some of the things that she knows has been going on in CVCC. I did have the opportunity, when I met with the superintendents and their superintendent there, to talk a little bit about the opportunity for us to do internships with potentially our current juniors who are in the program. So Dave Mance is getting me that information, so I'll be reaching out to them. Potentially any of the students that are in their automotive service technology, building and property maintenance, and their power equipment technology, to see if they would be interested in doing an internship with us over the summer. Normally between your junior and senior year, you do an internship, it's paid. And then in your senior year, the first half of the year, you're finishing up your coursework, and then you do the rest of the year, so that second semester in that usually same internship company. And so it's a great opportunity, I think, for us to think about positions that we know are hard to fill in our district. For example, our mechanic for our buses, our maintenance workers here that do a plethora of things right throughout the district. It's a great opportunity to grow some of our own students and who may not be looking to go to college right after, but could walk into an apprenticeship, internship with us, and then eventually become a full-time employee with us. So we're working on that. And then secondly, there is the new law in regards to the middle school. You have to offer career tech. So I will be working with Mr. Mance and Jamie Vanek to kind of think about where that might fit into our current middle school wheel, kind of those electives, and see how we might kind of think, not hire someone else. That's always the problem, right? There's a lot of these unfunded mandates where they say, well, you have to offer a career tech at middle school. Well, great, who's going to do that? And who's, paying the salary of the person that's going to do that? So we'll have to look and see. And I think my understanding is that's why Mr. Hall is designing those training modules so that we could have a teacher at the middle school take those training modules and then be what they would consider certified within these modules to teach a career tech class. So we'll be exploring some options for that.
Thank you, Ms. Cogan. Treasurer, Ms. Knapp?
Absolutely. So I have quite a few things this evening for the update, and I was going to do just a general update and then go into the agenda update so that when we get to my items, they'll make more sense. So on our bank reconciliation, I don't know if any of you have really looked at it as much as I do, but there's different bank accounts we have in the district. We have Independence Bank, we have Dollar Bank, and we have an investment account with U.S. Bank, and then we have what I would call our liquid account, which is Star Ohio. So we do our daily banking with Independence and Dollar, and we do our, where we get some interest, short-term interest is in the Star Ohio, and long-term interest is in U.S. Bank. And you try to match up your U.S. Bank investments to the 5-year forecast and cash flows and try to balance all this out. So in February, like a couple weeks ago, I went in to move money for our first payroll and saw that you can see it's going low, our Star Ohio account. So we dropped to 3.7 million, which is the lowest I could see on any kind of historical reporting. So I went and looked deeper into that, and it really is relating to our tax settlements and our tax advances, not settlements yet, advances, and cash flow, and the 3-pay month of January. So we had a lot of nuances that happened in January that we haven't had happen before recently. So in January, I mentioned that we only had $226,000 for a tax advance, which is the lowest we've had. We only got 60% advance instead of 90% at collection rate because tax bills hadn't gone out. So no one really had an opportunity to pay their taxes. Now those are out, and escrow agencies really haven't started moving the money, so we haven't seen a lot. So we only got 2.2 million last Friday for our advance, and I estimated 2.7 million, and we are back to a 90% collection, so we're running 500,000 short of what I thought we would get in. And we have not got our true up back to 90% from the 60% January. So March is going to be pretty interesting to see what this settlement comes in at, because hopefully people have paid their first half taxes and we see a little bit larger of bump. And historically, in the update I showed you, how the tax advances with the bank balances matched up. And the trend has gone from having more money in the advances early on and less in the settlement to less in the advance early on and much more in the settlement. So I'm expecting the same to be happening in March. But what this does is it's hard to predict when it's changing like this, and it's hard to match your cash flows to your expense cycles. So a couple things that we're doing internally is making sure that we, like your routine, everyday, monthly budgets are paid monthly. Like, for instance, we have a bill from the ESC every month, and it's a fairly large one. I want to make sure that's paid every month so that it's in our cycle of expenditure, so I can start matching up cash flow expenses to incoming cash flows better. So that's just something we're working on, and I know it was a little shocking to see some of those advances being what they are. So I wanted to give you a little background with that. And that leads us into like purchase orders. There was a question on if we're all done with purchase orders from last year. So there's one large one outstanding, and that's the bleachers, which once the spring walkthrough comes through, we'll be pushing that out the door and it'll be off the books. So I'm not worried at all about that one. And all the others are addressed and going to be done by the end of February, I would think. We have one where the company is still sending, I don't know how it could be on back order for this many months, but they assure us it's coming by February, so I hope in the next couple of weeks we get that last little order in. We can move those out. So that will be the purchase orders getting cleared out so that we're just working with this year's purchase orders. And that kind of leads into the budgeting cycle that we're going to be heading into because we're going into March. So one of the things I try to do is have templates available for the building leadership and administration and sit down with them. Like Kelly and I will sit with each administrator and building leadership and talk about their budget, what it was, what it needs to be, what we anticipate it to be, and try to start coming up with a pretty solid budgetary number in the building level. Because with 80% of your costs being salary and benefits, that's where we'll spend a great deal of our time in terms of Superintendent Kogan and I. That's where we're going to put a lot of our focus, and we need building leadership's help on the other items. So that's going to be coming through. I don't want to jam everyone up in May, so I'd like to try to start this in March with them so that by the end of April we have a really good idea of where our budget sets. Tom and I already started on the capital planning one, or the capital improvement, or permanent improvement. So we're starting that process to get that set up so we can get a good picture. And having now these several months underneath us, I think both Superintendent Kogan and I have a better idea. We're certainly not experts in the district yet, but a much better idea of what the budgets can look like, may need to look like. And also, again, time that out to what is the levy cycle, where do we see inflows coming, where do we see outflows coming, and balancing that cash flow to that is really important so that we can feel more confident with those things. So we'll be pulling that together. And I've communicated to the buildings that the last time to put purchase orders in is going to be April. And I have the exact date on the desk. I didn't bring it this evening. But trying to overly communicate to the buildings, this is the last day to get your orders in, plan ahead, because we need to get them processed out and paid before the end of the year to kind of clean up and know where we're going to settle out at the end of the fiscal year. So that's the budget and reconciliation information. We have a really neat thing. Also, let me bounce to State Foundation. I put on your seats the State Foundation amount. So I had a question by one of the members about what do we get in state aid, and as tonight's discussion at the end will be a little bit about the voucher resolution on there. I just wanted to show you where we are with state aid and how it's progressed over the last several years. So I put on this chart, as you can see, once Fair School Funding Plan, which is our current formula system, came into play, which is in year 22, fiscal year 22, we got a 10.52, a 10.5% increase from the previous year. So you'll see that. And then each year we've grown a little bit. I mean, in its perspective, right, I would say we've grown a little bit. I don't think it's substantial growth, but it's at least growth. And we're growing because we're a formula district. We're not a guarantee district. So the formula is helping our district. So we're getting a little bit more state funding. So why is this important? Well, if state funding, if they take from our bucket of public education and put to privatized vouchers, that could reduce, depending on where they choose to take money from in the whole biennium budget processing, what's going on. So I just wanted to show you what we get amount-wise. And then just in case anyone's wondering and listens to me regularly and says, but you say we only get $800 a kid, $850 a kid, but 1.2 million divided by 1,000 kids is more than $854. Because the state aid part, the basic aid, is what we get $854 on. Then you have ins and outs coming in, like this particular month in February, we received excess cost on a special education process where we're able to claim reimbursement on certain costs past a threshold. But we also have post-secondary going out in that category. So that ins and outs, they're called transfers, they will alter month to month. So I would envision us ending somewhere between 1 and 1.1 million in state aid for this year. So. And the final phase-in, if it goes with the biennium process, would be year 27. So hopefully, I saw the initial, and even Mrs. O'Neill's document said, you know, it looks like it's going to be funded, so hopefully that continues, and that will help us. But, and then the very anomaly out here is fiscal year 20, and that was because that particular year, for the COVID, there was huge reductions to school funding that year. And it was mid-year with no notice, and it was really hard on school districts everywhere in Northeast Ohio and in the state. And then it was very drastic, and it was so drastic that they started trying to put limitations to it and starting to try to refund some districts. So you can see that we went from $758,000 to $350,000 between 19 and 20. So that was a really, really large hit that this district took for that.
They did
So-
offer COVID relief funds and things like that too, though, so that had to have made up for some of this.
Well, most of the COVID relief was federal funding flowing through the state. This was just truly state foundation.
Got it.
So I would say to you, well, yes, you got additional ESSER, everyone got ESSER COVID relief funding. This was truly state aid just cut. I think it was in the beginning, there was a little bit of a panic. No one had experienced this, so they weren't sure what to expect and how long it might go on and what they needed to support financially. But most school districts took a huge hit in that fiscal year 20. With just no notice. I just want to reiterate that because that was really hard to plan with. So I want to just give that a little bit of data for you guys so you have it. And then we have a really exciting thing on the agenda for my part. I'm going to bounce ahead to the employee recruiting bonus. So last year, the district was offering a $2,000 recruiting bonus if an employee could recruit a bus driver who stayed 1 year. So it's exciting for Al. Al recruited Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Dan, and Al will be getting his bonus, and Mr. Schmidt, or Mr. Dan's been here for the year. And if anyone's gotten to know Mr. Dan, he's a pretty fun guy, so it's exciting that he's here with us. So that's a positive light to help get driver relief going, and maybe we'll even see more come through. The common remitter, I want to explain it briefly before you vote on it this evening. So a common remitter has to do with our annuities that we can offer employees as a courtesy to have annuity programming going, and they're called 457s and 403Bs, and it's additional saving plans that employees can choose to do, completely voluntary. And currently we have 10 different plans going where we send 10 different checks out every month, twice a month for each pay. It's very cumbersome the way we're doing it right now. So one of the things we want to do is streamline this. This could easily be streamlined into what's called a common remitter. This one entity will then, we send the payment to the one entity, and then they distribute it appropriately to each individual employee with the amounts that should be deducted. Two of the really nice things besides that efficiency of doing 2 checks a month instead of 20 checks a month is that they also help you with IRS compliance for the 457 and 403B plan documents, which is something that is very hard internally to manage. So what tonight I'm asking for is just permission to have the relationship with PennServe. They will then evaluate plan documents, which are very old and outdated for us, so we'll be bringing you new plan documents in March to be approved. And then we can get streamline the number of programs that are offered and work with the people to get that going smoother. So that's the common remitter. And then just cleaning up data. This is the season to clean up data. I mentioned about purchase orders. We removed stale dated checks from us. We did that process this month. And I'm working on stale dated accounts that haven't had activity in the last 5 years. And I'm asking to create a new student activity where we would then, once you approve the transfer of their balances into it, that this student activity created this evening would essentially allow Superintendent Kogan the opportunity to meet needs of students as they arise, that maybe there isn't other funding sources for, instead of just having stale funds sitting there with balances. So, and I gave you all that data. I won't bore you with it again and just read it to you, but you saw the different accounts and the amounts. So, and the same process for class funds of like 2022, 21, I think, and I'm going by memory on those. So the same process there, just cleaning up data, getting it ready to close for effectiveness. And then there's 2 then and nows on there, one for annual backflows, but the second one I really want to explain, and that's completely on my end. I dropped the ball on that. It's an ESC bill for services offered last year that I didn't understand and had to really look into it. So I had to take my time to do some diligence on it to figure out what was going on. And so that's why that one's a little bit, not a little, that's why that one's late and on there. So I want to explain that. And then you'll also have the rates of pay we're presenting tonight, just for transparency's sake, so everyone knows what our sub rates are, our student worker, both high school and college. And then Kelly referred to the internship. We do have a skilled student worker level on there that would be for the internship programs we hope to bring to the district. So hopefully this month is a lot of cleanup and a lot of setting up for future months. Anything for me? That was a lot. It'll make my section go quicker, though, I
No,
promise.
no. Thank you.
Thanks for your
Thank
thoroughness,
you.
Jen.
You are.
All
You're
right.
so thorough. I appreciate it. Assistant Superintendent Tom Dreiling.
So wanted to give you a little staffing update here. You know, we talked about it a few months ago, and we listed some assistance with the recruiting company for our bus drivers. It's working, like it's working out well. We've got 2 drivers in training right now, and actually they're both on the agenda this evening. One of them was by way of this recruiter. The other one was by word of mouth, which is how we've gotten most of our drivers in the past. And as of what's today, Tuesday? As of last week, we had 2 more names brought our way, so we're kind of vetting those people out and seeing. So, we get a lot of people that come, not a lot, we get people that come through our doors interested in driving, and then sometimes they find out what it is required, and it's maybe not what they thought it would be, and other times it works out, and then it helps our district. So stay tuned for that, but we'll take any positive light we can get with drivers, I'll tell you at this point, because it's just really been a strain since day one for us to be able to deliver the transportation. Speaking of buses, you guys voted to take a bus offline to remove from inventory a few months ago. It's taken a while. I actually just got the contract today that Jen and I will review tomorrow for auction services. We've done this in the past. Some districts will have a company just tow it away and use it for scrap, and then you'll get some money. We've had success with auctioning our buses. And so we're going to review that. I would fully anticipate us putting that into auction. I remember the one year, the one that stands out, of all the buses we've done, we ended up selling a bus to an art teacher from another district who, for her weekend, she bought the bus and turned it into art class on wheels. And so she would go to different parties, birthday parties, and do that. So everybody has their different purpose for the buses after we get done using them. And obviously we run our buses long. We get a lot of wear out of our buses. Speaking of, on the agenda, you'll see that we're asking you to vote on going to participate in Ohio Schools Council's bid process for buses. They do it every year, and we're usually part of it every year. It doesn't mean we're buying a bus. It just, we want to go out and be part of it in case we decide. Well, it just so happens this year we are looking to purchase a bus, so we would purchase it for the next school year. But before we do that, we want to get in on the bid process with Ohio Schools Council. So that's what that is. Our last bus, we're on an every other year, every 2-year cycle. We've looked in the past, and some years we squeeze another year. We were able to squeeze a second year. Our last full-size bus was approximately $99,000. We bought that in 2020. Since then, we had bought a shorter bus in between that range in 2022. So we're ready for another one, but stay tuned for that. Our facilities evaluation, as you know, is underway with the Architectural Vision Group. We toured the middle school a couple weeks ago and primary school, identifying different key areas and current conditions. I mean, that includes mechanical, roofing, windows, electrical loads, and many other areas. They had architects, engineers, safety people there taking a look at what our current state is and so forth. And so they're in the process. Today, I just actually shared our latest roofing analysis that we've had done, that we've been monitoring for the past couple of years. And so they're going to take that, and I'm sure they're going to be here to present for us when they're finished with that. And I think in a couple months. It's going to take a little while to put together, but it was good to meet with them. And what would a meeting be without a bleacher update? So, you know, it's like I walked the bleachers the other day and I saw some things that were improved upon, but quite frankly, there's more to be done. The punch list, a lot has been done, and there's still some to be done. We've set up a tentative date in early March. They were asking to come out this week, and I said there's just no point. There's ice, and you can't really see everything that we need to see. So it seems drawn out, but I mean, a project this large, there is always a punch list, and you know, the time frame as was, because they finished, you know, right up to the season. This is pretty normal. So it's not lost, it's just long. So that's pretty much it. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Mr. Dreiling.
Yep.
Superintendent Cogan.
So I'm excited. I have a group of people here to talk a little bit about our strategic visioning process. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that, and that'll be my report for this evening. So I know I'm going to kind of call my peeps out back there.
She said it was going to be a sauna. It's not. You said it was going to be a sauna. It's freezing. You say you will make it be a sauna for women. It's freezing in here.
My toes are cold.
I know.
I'm not going to make you feel
All
my
right,
toes, but.
so we're excited to get started with you tonight. So I have with me tonight Dawn Frank, I have Sandy McCullough, Dana Wolf, Natalie Hanna, TJ Ebert, Joe Graham, one of our students, Trip Derryberry, another one of our students, and Kelsey Whitaker. Oh, we also have, I think he might be here for his wife, but Dr. Hill was also part of we also had Tony Avila and Lynn Lansky were also part of the strategic visioning group as well. So we're just going to kind of walk you through something I think I would say that we're really proud of and really excited about. So I'm just going to kind of start everybody off, just kind of remind you kind of where we started and where we are now. One of the things when I interviewed for the position here in Independence that the board felt really strongly about was the fact that the vision, kind of the strategic plan of the district needed to be updated. It had last kind of been crafted back in before COVID, so we're thinking like 2018-19. And really felt like it was a great time with new administration to recalibrate and rethink about what the district vision and mission is. And I came from a district where we had done some of the work, and the one thing that I feel very strongly about is that you should not have a strategic plan that sits on a shelf and nobody knows what it is and what it stands for, and it's not a living and breathing document. So I really wanted a lot of stakeholders involved. I wanted it to be something that would really be kind of our directional system for the district. And so in order to do that, you have to make sure that you involve a ton of stakeholders. And so the first thing we did in October of 2024 is we had a lot of staff, we had students, we had alumni, we had parents, we had board members, we had community members that came together at the Civic Center over in Independence, and we met, and this was facilitated through the Schlechte Center, through Dr. Anissa Rowland. And so we came together and we really talked about, we did some different protocols about like defining moments in the district, and it was really kind of great because we had people who had been here for 30 years, and then you had Jen and I and Natalie, who had like literally just started. And so it was great to be able to see what people said had happened throughout independence, all of these different years, and like how we got to where we are right now. So that was really powerful. We did some mental models, and we really kind of did some audits of where is the district currently and where do we want it to go. So that was October. We had smaller groups, focused conversations. We brought in more parents, we brought in more students, we brought in more community members, more people from the business. Linda O'Neill brought her in, had some conversation from her perspective, having had students who graduated. So again, trying to ask everybody about what do they love about independence, and where are some opportunities for growth within the district. October and November, we had some small work with our teams, mostly our teachers and our administrators. We then did a little bit more with our small work, and then reconvened our team in January to kind of roll this out to our group again from October, get additional feedback on that, and then spent January kind of finalizing the recommendation that you have tonight on your board docs. And then this is our board presentation. I am really proud that I never had to change any of those dates down there, so I met that timeline, just FYI. So our strategic visioning members, I just threw names up here, but just kind of to show you that it was a diverse group, and it was great because people even said, like, am I sitting where it says parent? Am I sitting where it says teacher? Am I sitting, because I could be all those roles, right? Alumni, community member. So it was really great to have so many people that were part of this process. And here's just some pictures of the group getting together and learning and leading. So I want to just start with why we did the strategic vision. And the idea is that school districts and many organizations can tend to be bureaucracies. And bureaucracies get weighed down with the paperwork and the rules and the policies. And when you have a bureaucracy, it really starts with who's the power and authority system. So when you think about government as the prime example of bureaucracy, right? You see how it works from a power and authority system. Whoever the president is, whoever's in the House, whoever's in the Senate, all of bureaucracy runs from this type of a model. And really when you go through, you see all these other systems, the evaluation system, the boundary system, the recruitment and induction, knowledge development, and the directional system is really at the bottom. And you see that because government's a great example of that. As we change presidents, as we change people that are in the House and the Senate, the directional system changes, right? It just depends on who's in the power and authority. So your directional system is at the bottom of that. Well, the idea is not to have a school district where it depends on who sits in the superintendent's role, who sits in these seats, right? It shouldn't matter. Because when that happens, it's constantly changing for those who are in the organization of, I thought we were this and now we're that. How come we started this and then it just ended? So we really wanted to make a switch from that bureaucracy to the learning organization. You see in a learning organization, it's the directional system that's at the top. And you see that power and authority is at the bottom. Because again, going back to that whole idea of, if the directional system's at the top of your learning organization, that's what guides everything. So if I decided to leave in a few years, the board who's sitting here, when they go to replace that power and authority, are going to look for someone who believes this. Because this is important to the board and to the community and to the school district. And so if someone sits in interviews but doesn't believe in what we're sharing here, then that person wouldn't be a good fit, because the directional system is what you make all your decisions on. Right? When you have to make those tough decisions when it comes to finances or funding, bond issues, hiring, you're always looking at your directional system first, and you look at knowledge development and transmission. A school district should not have one leader. A school district should not have just 5 board members who make decisions. The school district should have a lot of people who have all the knowledge and who understand the district and the mission and vision. The student voice is just as important as the superintendent voice, right? And so if that is our belief, then we become a learning organization. I will tell you, this is difficult. Not a lot, because we have to operate in both, right? We can become a learning organization, but we still have policies. We still have people telling us what to do, and we still have people saying that you can do this or you can do that. So we have to, of course, still have testing, we have all of these requirements. So we still have to be in a bureaucracy. But the idea is, can you be a learning organization most of the time? And again, it's difficult to do that, but it can be done when you're thoughtful about it, and when you follow this with your directional system at the top and your power authority at the bottom. So I wanted to put that down here because I think what I want you to listen for, those in the audience, our board members, is how often you're seeing this side versus this in what we're going to show you that we worked on. So I'm going to turn it over to TJ.
Yeah, one of the first things we had the opportunity to do, first of all, I'm really proud of the work that we did collaboratively. It was amazing, all the stakeholders that were involved. The process that we went through was just absolutely amazing, and I was just, thank you for including me as to be a part of the process. One of the first things we had to do, like Kelly said, we had to see where we were at. So we had to do some reflecting. We had to look at ourselves in the mirror. And Anissa ran us through this images of school activity. And what this gave us an opportunity to do, it, each person in their role, principals, central office, board members, students, teachers, they all had the opportunity to see where they go on this different chart. So the guiding metaphors are over here on the right, and then our core businesses here on the left. We definitely don't want our schools for me to be seen as a warden, and our teachers as a guard, and our students as inmates. We definitely didn't want to be down there, and we did. Okay, well, the next slide will show you. These are all the different roles, and we were kind of in this section right here, where students were seen as clients and principal, chief of staff. We want to be leaders of leaders to be a learning organization. So again, this activity gave us the foundation to kind of build our mission and vision on where we want to be. It gave us our starting point. And the great thing about this is we can do this in 3 to 5 years when we kind of evaluate our mission and goals and vision, and we'll have this data to see if we've moved up into a learning organization. So it gives us that starting data that we need to see if we're making progress in our goals.
Okay, so the next step was to develop our core beliefs. So the core beliefs, before we could move on to our vision and mission, we needed to know what we believe in. So we came up with 4 district belief statements. The first one is we create an environment where student voice drives our actions and fosters greater engagement in their educational experience.
Our next belief is that we inspire and empower students to achieve personal and academic growth within their school and community.
The third one is we commit to making purposeful decisions that prioritize the success of our students through transparency, innovation, and community involvement.
And our last belief statement is that we seek, develop, and share knowledge to ensure strong partnerships among our district, families, and the overall school community to support learning.
And having that core foundation, we were able to move on to our vision and mission.
So as Sandy said, we used our belief statements to come up with our vision statement, which is cultivating a legacy of excellence. We didn't start with the word cultivating, we started with the word creating, but then as a team, we decided that we already have a legacy of excellence, and it's our job to just make sure we keep that. So that's why we changed it to cultivating a legacy of excellence. And then from there, we created our mission statement on how we're going to do that. With integrity, our mission is to create a collaborative and innovative educational community where our students thrive as active contributors to this world.
So after we did our mission statement, we came up with our mission statement, then we came up with goal statements that our district has to achieve in order to reach our mission statement. So we talked about empowering the whole child development, which means, not just going through our scores and their grades that they receive in the classroom, but the entire child, which we'll talk about in a second. Designing valuable experiences and work, and I kind of heard even talking up here, like what CVCC the internship program, stuff like that. And I know that we as a staff, we went to different businesses and, seeing how our kids can, incorporate what we have here at Independence within our classrooms. Aligning resources and knowledge for collaborative growth, and that even would consist of what we did the entire time, meeting with residents, meeting with businesses, collaborating with the different buildings, and then collaborating with each other as teachers, and then creating a welcoming and inclusive community environment. So when you walk into our schools, you feel like you are home. So our first statement was empowering the whole child development, and this one actually is my favorite one. I always say I love to teach. Yes, I love teaching the standards, but my favorite thing is just seeing in the end how our students come, and it's actually really neat to see where they come afterward and when they come back and visit. So excel academically, socially, and emotionally with obviously our support. And again, it doesn't just take us teachers, it takes the parents, the community members, and then making sure that students are empowered in their education, that they have a voice, that they have a say in what they're learning, and then even just creating compassionate, resilient individuals, that they're feeling for each other, that they see not just what's in school, the grades, that they are compassionate for one another, and then if they fail, that they know it's okay to fail, that they're going to bounce back up with the support of all of us.
Okay, the next one, you're staying here, because remember, you got to designing valuable experiences and work. What's important about this is that this is not just for students, it's for staff and students, and that the work for all of us is valuable and meaningful. We want student engagement with curriculum and an innovative and collaborative curriculum, and that we have a culture of ongoing improvement for students and staff. And I really think that when we met, we thought it was important that we're all on one team and that we're all working together for this culture. So this was important for that work.
Another thing that we need to do and thought was really important was aligning resources and knowledge for collaborative growth. And so as we sit here and we hear the budget report and all of these pieces and parts, the buses, everything that goes into a district is how do we align all of that and make it so that kids can succeed. Staff has the resources they need to help support kids and continue to cultivate this this district of excellence and this legacy. So that goes along with modernizing the learning environment where students can thrive, and that staff is continue to be empowered through learning opportunities, continual development, and that we, as building leaders of students, that we can continue to help be innovative and be supportive through the community, for students, and then just drive really what's next for the community. So we feel like it's a big responsibility, and that needs to be factored in when we're talking about all these pieces and parts coming together to help students succeed.
And then lastly, and Dawn mentioned this, where I like how you said you feel like you're home when you walk into the building, but creating a welcoming and inclusive community environment where students, families, staff members are valued and respected, where parents are treated as vital partners. We talked a lot about that, and that really we can't do it without each other, and that we have a culture of open communication and community partnerships.
So this is an infographic that was designed, Kelly's been working on, and that's going to be put out there. We know our attention spans are so short, and even those slides are overwhelming when we look at them. But this is just the beginning phase of what's going to be put out for the community, for students, for staff, so that everybody could kind of keep going back and get a quick glimpse of recentering ourselves. Hey, what are our goals? Is what I'm doing today aligning with our goal? Is what I'm doing next year going to align for our goals? And as parents, we can also see this. I know it's just so important, what you guys do at home, and we feel like we're helping raise your babies. So just always going back to this together and just having that communication piece to the community, the staff, and everybody's on the same page. So you should be seeing this, and then more of more infographics coming off of this.
Yeah, Charlene was great. She kind of came up, and Tom worked a little bit, and then Charlene took it and ran with it, and came up with kind of our cultivating a legacy of excellence I'm going to go back for just a minute because we do have students here, and I feel like it's important to hear their voice. And so I know they're both like, oh, really? So Joe, why don't you talk a little bit? Joe was there on the first day, but unfortunately could not come the second day, and went home and without me telling him, read through the rest of like all of the stuff that we were going to do the next day, and sent me an email late at night to try to give me some feedback. And what was the feedback?
After looking at all the stuff that we were working on, I really wanted to see our district become a pinnacle of education for other districts to look at. And I think our vision and our mission really focus on that to make sure we're providing the best experience for our students in whole childhood development.
I mean, I liked when he said, like, I want other districts to come to us. Like, I want other districts to say, I'm going to send my teachers over to Independence, or you all should be just like Independence. And that's kind of where, you know, we kept hearing that legacy and that excellence. And I think in one of them, we had the beacon of public education. Like, that sounds really impressive, right? The beacon of public education. And if we can become that, that's awesome. And remember that a strategic vision and mission is aspirational, right? It's not like task oriented, otherwise you're done. It's aspirational, and it's like, how do we finally get there? All right, Chip, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Come on over. All right, Chip, what did you think about the process?
I mean, I think it was just good that we could like focus on moving on, because like I feel like some school districts, like they know like maybe they have some stuff like that needs to be fixed, but then they don't do anything about it. And I just thought it was good that we are trying to move on to something better and making like a full family almost of a school district.
Thank you. It was great to have my students there because they went to rotated around the different tables, so it was great to have their voice in there as well. So I did want to share this with you. So prior to this meeting, each of the building principals did a mini rollout of this to their staff. So take this, maybe not as much into the goals, but a little bit of a rollout of like, hey, here's where we're at. This is what we want to present to the board on Tuesday night. And so then I crafted a survey and had the staff take it. It was anonymous, but I just wanted to let you know that 75% of the respondents felt that the new vision, the mission, and the beliefs do reflect the values and goals of the school community very well. And 21.8% felt it reflects them somewhat well. So you have, 95% of the people who, our staff in our building responding that like, yeah, I can kind of get behind this. This is something that I feel is reflective of what our district can be and should be. 71.8% of the staff felt the new strategic vision is very supportive of their work. And 21.8% felt it was somewhat supportive. So again, back to that 90% that the vision, those goals, support what teachers do in the classroom. In a sense that, can we always get better? Yes. And do teachers need the resources, and I can't remember if it was Dana, but need the professional development? When we had that being engaged and being a knowledge developer and things like that, that's staff too, not just students. And so really looking at that. I think that kind of the common themes that came out, which I thought was great, is most of the people who commented on that said, like, this is great and I can get behind it and I believe it, but what does it look like operationally? What am I doing differently in the classroom? Like, what am I supposed to change? What are my responsibilities now if I'm cultivating a legacy of excellence? Which is great, which tells me that they don't want it to just be a plan that sits on the shelf, that it actually is going to be a living and breathing document. There was appreciation on the focus on teamwork and ensuring all voices are heard. The staff was appreciated that they saw staff in there, but they also saw students in there, and they also saw parents in there, that we are all in this together, not just one group having to do all the work. There was, the respondents want clear, actionable steps for implementation, and they're still processing how the vision will be applied in their daily work. And that's where, as then the superintendent of the district, it comes down to, how do I then work with all of the staff so we can operationalize this? So we can talk about, if we believe that students being engaged in meaningful work, what does that mean if we're giving worksheets? Because Are worksheets definitely meaningfully and engaged? I bet I would say, sure. Do you love worksheet packets? No. So he's not going to be engaged. So how do we look at, yes, we have these standards, but how do we really think about how we can think about our who, right, our students, and what motivates them to learn, and whether that's they like learning in a different way, they want to attach it to something that they find meaningful. We need to ask their feedback. Teachers need to feel comfortable with, at the end of a lesson, getting feedback from students and saying, what did you like about this? What did you not like about this? Give me some suggestions. So that's part of the goal moving forward. You know, tonight, hopefully the board will vote on this strategic vision and mission. We'll send out our communication to our families and communities starting on Thursday. You know, we'll start doing the logo and the public relation changes to reflect that new mission and vision. We do have a staff professional development day on March 7th, so I'm going to be asking some members of our building design teams to meet with me to design that day for our staff. How do we start to take this mission and vision, and how do we do the continue doing, stop doing, and start doing? Because you got to take some things off the plate, and I think sometimes teachers just need permission to be like, you don't need to do this anymore, because you can't just keep adding onto their plates. It's not fair. And so we need to have those conversations about what are the high yield strategies that we want to keep, and what are some of the other ones that we're like, let's let them go for a little while. And then obviously continuing the design work and focus on student engagement. And I think most of all, transparency and communication. I don't think you can just run full forward and not keep stopping and asking and getting feedback from the students, getting feedback from the teachers, getting feedback from the administrators, our parents, our community. If nobody outside of our organization is seeing a difference, then that's a problem, right? Either we're not communicating it well enough or it's not happening. And we have to be okay with hearing it's not happening, and we have to do better at communicating if that's the reason. So I think there's those steps there to really make this a really cool and I think just a really, it's a great opportunity for us right now to start and be excited about cultivating a legacy of excellence and what that means for our students. So any questions from the board members?
Could you go back to the infographics page, please?
This way.
I love this. I agree. Like, it helps you to get focused on what we're looking at. So are we going to try and do all 4 of these goals at once, or do you need to achieve 1 to then go to achieve 2? How is that?
So that's a great question, and they are simultaneous, right? And there are different things within those goals, right? And so to your point, there has to be some communication. At our elementary building, they may do empowering whole child development really well at our elementary level, and maybe that's not an area that they need to focus on as much, but maybe they're like, you know, we really want to start with designing valuable experiences in work. Maybe that's where we need to start. It could be, you might see this aligning resources and knowledge for collaborative growth, more kind of maybe coming out of the administrative side of it, of are we putting resources to those things that are going to help our teachers, right? Are we giving them that professional development? And sometimes teachers will tell you it's not even necessarily professional development all the time. Sometimes it's just time, right? Time to do the things that you're asking me to do. And so do we have those mechanisms in place? So you might see that more at central office, not that that's not happening in the buildings, but you know, creating an inclusive and welcoming community environment. I've heard that sometimes, you know, especially if students are transferring in at the high school level, sometimes it's hard to transfer into our district. We have 80 kids in a class, right? They've been together for so many years. How do we really think about how we're acclimating those students back, or even students who leave and then come back? How do we make sure that they're in that environment where they're feeling that? How do we make it so that our parents feel comfortable coming into the building and asking questions? And I think there's a way you could focus on that as well. So I think you can do them all at one time, or pick some pieces and parts. Lynn, Mr. Avila, the two of you on the committee, thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for doing this. You touched on it at the very beginning during the interview process. It was like one of your top 3 bullet points that you mentioned to us that you wanted to achieve. And, you know, after you were brought on, I'm sure all of us said it, whatever you need. And it's, sometimes we're sincere when we say that, but sometimes it's like, we want you to want what we want too. But you were like, no, I really need this. And you took it and you ran, and it was to the point where Lynn, I remember she would just send us emails like, you guys are coming on this day. And I would ask Kelly, like, okay, do you have your person lined up? And she was already 6 steps ahead like she usually is. So I just want to say kudos to you for putting this all together, because you were 99% of it, and it was really, really important to you, and it was fun to be part of the process, because I have never even experienced anything like this. So thank you for doing it from start to finish, and I think you deserve a round of applause, really. So thank you so much.
I did enjoy when I was there for the first time. It was very, very interesting, the speaker that you had. I have been through this before, but it was not really, it was very much like reading the entire Plain Dealer Black. It was like so stale.
She's going to swear.
Very, very boring, I'll say. Not very boring, but it just was a lot of, there really wasn't as much not as much interaction, and we didn't have anybody that came with the credentials that the speaker had to try to. And I'll be honest, that I feel like we're kind of like 40, 60 in some of these areas, because I know that we actually have already had a number of school districts that have come and toured, like our primary school. I know TJ took a number of people through different districts about a year or 2 years ago. And so I know that we've had some of those accomplishments already, but certainly, I've had a few things, a few issues when I look at my kids going from, now they're 18 to 40, but geez, oh man, some of them are doing the same curriculum, the same actual worksheets from number 1 and number 9. So I'm grateful to see the enthusiasm is here, and it certainly is there with the team that you have. I mean, you guys are just amazing. I can't tell you, every single one of you have done so much to help make our kids, all of our kids, feel like they have some place to go if they need help or encouragement, and you give it to them so many times. So I appreciate everything you both have done.
I think this is awesome. In a world where we're constantly wanting to compare, I'd be curious as to some of the school districts around here, what they've come up with, and see how we, because we're fairly similar in a lot of ways, and see what we offer through this as opposed to what they offer, and then pool ideas, share ideas, to make us not just a stronger school district, but a stronger regional education area.
I just want to thank everybody, those who aren't here and those who are here. I feel like in this room there's like this breath of like fresh air. Like it's new, it's exciting, and I don't think that's just because Kelly and Jen are here. Like I think that there's things that we needed to grow on, and like I'm so proud of you all for like reflecting on that, because it's not always an easy thing to do. And I think this is going to be incredible. Like I am so excited, and even to see that you have the next steps already planned, because that's what I was like, well, okay, now we have this, like what are we going to do? Like it's so nice that you already like have it ready to go. I'm excited to see where this takes us in the years. I thank you so much for all of you for doing it. It's fantastic.
And for giving up your night on a snow day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so that's all we have.
Thank you, guys.
I just want to make one comment.
Yeah.
Because I've been on many of these strategic plans, and
Yeah.
they're just horrible. Because you're on them forever.
Yeah.
The fact that you did this in this amount of time is amazing. And the other thing is, as a community member, this is going to reach so well in the community. You know why? Because you didn't kill it with a bunch of education ease that the community will not understand. You did such a good job
congratulations. Really,
Yes.
You're doing such a good job. Really anxious to see what the community says.
Yes, I'm excited. Dr. Hill, anything?
I think it's ambitious, and now it's going to come to getting people's buy-in and operationalizing it, but I think you guys have the right team to do it.
Agreed. So we're gonna call it, we keep calling it a strategic vision, not a plan, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
a plan,
Yes.
it's, this is a vision, and we're gonna get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
All right, so anybody else want to say anything? Are we good? All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you.
You guys can go, you don't have to stay, I'll let you know if it doesn't pass.
Thank you for coming.
We'll need to go back to the drawing board. Chairman Joe, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
I'm just gonna give a minute for the room to clear.
I think that was the-
Oh, no, it was Danielle.
It was, that was her?
Dawn figures it out, and I know Dawn. That was Danielle.
Your attention, man. You're about inclined.
Okay. That's my report. That's great.
Yeah, we're just checking on public participation if anyone had entered in.
I don't see anything submitted, but I wouldn't see it anyways.
Oh, I can go in and check, but I don't, I think I would have gotten an email, so I think we're good.
Okay, I'm going to read it. Okay, public participation. It's the policy of the Independence Board of Education to hear public comment at board meetings. The public is invited to speak to any of the agenda items and other school topics at this time. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. We had a computer in the back that you could enter your information in if you would like to participate. At this time, I don't believe we have any participation. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our consent agenda for approval of the January meeting minutes. That's it?
Yep. And then mine, I've really covered more in the update, but the treasurer's report, if you'll please approve the treasurer's report, which was the monthly reports of January. We have 2 small appropriations and certificate of resources, which is again related to the federal funds. And that's very normal that they keep adjusting them. We keep getting reallocations or allocations. So there's 2, and it's the Title I and I believe Title II, if I'm going from memory. And then the common remitter with PennServe, please, and the creation of the student activity account, then the consolidation of all student activity accounts that'll go into the new account we're just creating. Request to transfer the stale dated class funds as listed there, so you could see those. And then the recruiting bonus, which again was so exciting that we were able to get one of our own employees to bring another great employee on board with Mr. Dan. The donation acceptance, if you'll please accept the donation of weight equipment for the middle school with an approximate value of $8,857 from the City of Independence Police Department. Acceptance of the middle school scoreboard for the gymnasium with an approximate value of $6,765 from the Independence Athletic Boosters. An acceptance of a donation from Mr. Vaverka and members of a church group who generously donated $500 in gift cards to deserving families. So that is amazing donations, such generosity in our community coming to our kids. And the approval of the and process for the 2 then and nows as listed. Those are my items. Yep, and now we'll go to Kelly's.
Superintendent recommendations for the consent agenda?
So you'll have the strategic vision on there that you'll approve. You have the second and final reading for those board policies, our membership for early SSA, or SAA, sorry, our athletic association. We have the MOU for Kiowa Community College, that's for our CCP students, and then also for LCCC. And then you saw the school bus, or Tom talked about the Ohio Schools Council for the school bus. You'll see the integrated preschool tuition rate for the 25-26 school year. We did not increase that rate. You notice those signs out there. We are actively searching for typical peers, so hopefully people will be registering for them. You'll see a student overnight trip proposal for the high school girls varsity, JV and varsity softball teams. I will tell you that, you know, part of the process of doing these things, we should have more up-to-date forms as we're looking through our policy and administrative guidelines. They're pretty antiquated. We should have a chaperone, you know, a list of like what our expectations are with chaperones and things like that. What I can tell you is on this trip, the girls JV and varsity has decided to drive down there, so parents will be driving their students down there, and if a student, you know, if their parents aren't going, they'll be catching a ride with another family to get down there, which is a little bit different. Usually you'll see them taking a bus or something down there, but because of cost and everything else, they did decide to travel on their own. So just kind of letting you know that that's a little bit different than normal.
Does that affect our insurance policy for them, since this is a school function?
It is
Especially since they're driving separate?
It is a different, the uniqueness is there's different liabilities on the district for allowing it.
And then you see a 7th grade Dearborn, Michigan trip. That's just a day trip. And then you see the 8th grade, that's for this year. The Michigan trip is May. And then the student overnight trip proposal, 8th grade for Washington, that's for next October. A little different than previous years, they are going with NOAC tours. So instead of them doing their own kind of finding a bus and finding the rooms and doing all of that, they're gonna go through NOAC. I think it's $40 more a student. But it puts all the liability on NOAC tours. You know, if anything happens, if somebody cancels, if something goes wrong, like, they're the ones who have to do all of that, and, you know, they collect all the money, so we don't have to worry about trying to do that. They do offer scholarships for students, payment plans for parents, so it's a little bit different this year. And then the inventory removal, I told Tom, I'm not a fan of putting inventory. You have to put inventory for removal if it's $10,000 or more. That's a law, revised code. So in the future, you probably, the only reason I say that is because people will see on here that we're removing bleachers, but Tom will tell you that.
We're not removing bleachers. They're the steps to the old bleachers we used to have, and we still have bleachers. We modified them. We wanted to keep the bleachers, but we didn't need the steps anymore. So.
And you sold them, correct?
Yeah. Good news, we got $730.
So people see that you removed it and they're like, what'd you do, throw it away? Like, it just, we can just put things out for auction and we don't need to have it on a removal under 10,000, so but it was on here, so I just left it.
Thank you.
So that's all I have. Are you gonna approve those, or we're gonna keep going with consent? Personnel, you'll see classified subs. Supplementals, you'll see ski club for the high school, middle school, the 7th grade Michigan trip, track, and baseball. Supplemental contracts, you'll see for the 25-26, this is assistant coaches for football. Matt Burns is bringing them in, so you'll see the steps that they're at. And then other personnel, when Jen spoke to the sub-hourly pay and the athletic contest workers and seasonal college student workers and skilled student workers. So kind of just letting you know that that's
Can I ask this question? Yep. Classified substitute John Hanser, is that our English teacher's husband?
It's a kindergarten teacher.
Kindergarten teacher.
Her husband.
Oh.
That was the word of mouth.
Got it.
So we were surprised and smiling.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome.
And then that's it.
Okay, thank
What's
you.
the work session moving?
Well, that's approved those.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then
Yes.
we'll go down
Too
to
far.
the new business. You're good.
Sorry about that.
That's
All right. Approval of the consent agenda. Approval of the consent agenda items F1 through I3 as presented, including any amendments presented.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll, please. I would love
Sorry. Mr. Avila?
Who's running first?
No, remember we went in
They go-
organization,
they
we're
go
doing
in alphabetical order
alpha.
now.
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mrs. Sears?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes. Thank you. New business, board agenda policy, first reading, no action.
That's the Board of Revisions complaints and counter complaints from Mr. C. He did talk to us about that. That is the new policy. And then care of students with chronic health conditions. Unfortunately, accidentally, that was left off the last group that we gave you that we were updating. So Sandy McCullough has taken a look at that, so that is also there for your
Okay.
approval. So this will be a first read on these.
Okay, thank you. Informational items, upcoming events. We have a waiver day, Friday, March 7th. No classes for students, and March board meeting dates, March 4th and March 18th. Board member discussion, actions, board member comments. I know,
Yeah,
Ron, you have-
yeah, I wanted to, just like I've tried to do with most meetings, is sort of highlight some of the previous graduates. So Nick Krasnashlik, class of 2016, graduated from Hiram, and then went another 4 years, graduated from Neomed, currently working University Hospital in radiology. He's part of the Medical National Honor Society. So class of 2016, he's already gone through 8 years of medical schooling and medical school, and he's well on his way to his career path. I also wanted to wish Evan McNamara good luck at the state swim meet this weekend. This is his third trip to the States in swimming, which I don't recall ever having a swimmer go that many years in a row. So good luck to him. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Next, we have our April work session date. We need to discuss, need to move the work session from April 1st, and it's rescheduled for the 3rd or the 7th. So we need to decide what works best for everybody.
Do we know if we're gonna have the assessments back or the?
We will by the 17th, whatever the April date is, the second.
Okay, so not for this one.
I mean, it would be great, but I don't know that I can.
So what will
They
this
wouldn't-
one be about? What will this work session be for?
I don't know, I feel like we always have stuff to talk about. We can always cancel it. Yeah, we could always cancel it. So let's keep it, like, tell me what date works. But to your point, if ABG cannot come on the earlier date,
Right.
and we're gonna go to the regular board meeting for that, we may just cancel that.
Okay.
And the regular means April 15th,
Yes, April 15th.
tax day.
Yeah. Tax day.
Only the finance people know.
From our
I
treasurer.
am fine with either of those days.
Is there anyone who has a conflict with the 3rd or the 7th?
When's Easter?
Not till the 20th.
Okay. I'm good either.
Ron, I know you travel a lot.
We're gonna do it Thursday or Monday?
Is Monday the 3rd?
No.
No.
Monday the 7th, oh. You know what, Monday would probably be better
Okay.
for me.
4-3?
Yeah.
Okay.
4-3,
That's the 7th.
No, 4/7.
The
7th,
4-7,
yeah, sorry, yeah.
4-7. At 6 PM?
Yes.
EAC?
Yes. Thank you. Ohio School Boards Association recognition. We are so proud to announce that Tony, with sincere appreciation for your dedication and service to public education, OSBA will recognize you for 10 years of service on March 12th at the Lorraine County JVC. JVS, sorry. Congrats.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys are so proud.
I'm proud of you. Are you gonna go? You better go get some pizza.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
good.
So, yes, am I supposed to say something?
Sure.
Do it the microphone.
No, we got one. I just want to, I look at the calendar and I really say this, you know, my 5 colleagues, or 4 colleagues, myself, you know, it's been 2 years, or I'm sorry, it's been a year ago at this time, we had to embark on finalizing, finding a new treasurer, and then starting to find a new superintendent. And, you know, I've told you guys before, but it's been a lot of fun. So this has been, while the most stressful year was 2024, it's been, of my 10, it's been, it was a lot of fun, spending a lot of hours in that back room over there, and debating, redebating, and things like that. So I couldn't do it without you, can't do it by myself, and I do value all of you, and you're, especially this past year, you're always going to be special to me.
Thanks, Tony.
Are we invited? Are we invited to come on March 12th?
Yes, and I'll need to know so I can register everyone. who
So
wants to
March
come.
12th is that's one of the 2 locations?
Yeah, I no offense, I'm not attending Warren.
Yeah, we're not
That's
going to
far
Warren.
away
We'll go
from
to
me.
Loring.
I decline that invite.
Well, their food looks better, but okay.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay. And number 4, adopt resolution for the Vouchers Hurt Ohio initiative of the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding.
So that is back on the agenda. If you remember a few months ago, I kind of did the presentation and talked about it, and then we tabled it for a little while just to get more information. Hasn't gone away, surprise, surprise. Still there. And obviously, you know that I feel strongly that, you know, this is not a private school, public school issue. This is about the government not funding public schools the way that they should be. It's in our Constitution that they have to fund our schools, and people will tell you that people who say it's a different pot, it's the same pot of money. It's just where their priorities are. They're taking money out and they're putting it in the vouchers. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of talk right now and a lot of uncertainty in the public funding of school. And, you know, we have senators making statements about whether or not they're going to take away the guarantee, whether or not they're going to take away certain things, whether or not, you know, schools can be fully funded. Currently, it is on the back of the taxpayers. And how, I can't believe that more people aren't emailing their legislators and telling them, like, people just can't continue to be taxed to pay for schools. It's found unconstitutional, find a different way. But continuing to take billions of dollars and siphon them away from public school, obviously as a private school student growing up, but a public school superintendent, I just feel like I need to advocate. Joining the coalition is, I believe, $2 per student. So for us, you know, we're not looking at a huge amount of money. I don't know that the lawsuit's going forward whether we join or not. I do think when they go in, it always looks better the more districts you have that are supporting that. I know right now, Mike Hanlon, who's the superintendent of Chardon, has reached out to districts. So you'll be getting an email from me. Senators are saying that they don't want a canned email. They would like letters from students and board members and community members about school funding and about the importance of public school and what it's meant to them. So we will be doing a letter writing campaign. We only have a couple weeks to get those in before they vote. But I think our voices need to be heard, and I think one way that you can do that is by joining this particular lawsuit.
Well, I do think that this is totally the wrong way. Yeah, listen, parents can do what they want with their kids, send them wherever they want, but this is totally wrong as to how they're financially trying to push the burden, more of the burden of funding these the public schools on the taxpayers. I was elected to support the Independence Public Schools, and so I agree that I will be voting to join this coalition.
I agree with you, Ron. Plus, I've had a number of residents here that say, you know, if we're going to be looking for more funding through asking our residents for more money, that we definitely should make sure that we're advocating for any opportunities that we can possibly receive any funding. So I'm also going to support.
And how much money would we get from this, joining this lawsuit?
If they went.
Yeah.
I have not seen any numbers in any fashion.
Are we expected to get money if we join the lawsuit? Is that one of the understandings for participation?
Well, I think the premise is to try to protect what they currently are allocating to us and not let that be jeopardized.
Yeah, but it's not taking from the public schools right now.
Well, we don't, so to answer that, the response would be, we don't know. So if the lawsuit goes and says, and the coalition wins the lawsuit, that takes $9 billion and puts it back into the pot of money. Now, whether or not the senators in the education committee then look at that and go, well, we were already earmarking that for private education schooling. They told us we're not allowed to do it, it's unconstitutional, they gave it back to us. Let's divvy it up among the rest of the districts in the state, the public school districts. We may potentially get money. They may go, you know what? Well, we're just gonna put that $9 billion, I don't know, into another pot. But at least they're not taking it, because it's not gonna be sustainable for them to continue that. They're gonna have to increase that $9 billion. So I think that's why they're saying right now, there's a question on whether or not they can continue to publicly fund or continue to fund through the government, the public side, because there's a shortfall of money. But if you just reached over and took some of that money over, you could guarantee, you could do all of those things that you're currently saying you might take away from us. So you don't know whether you're going to get a windfall of $9 billion. I can tell you that they are saying right now that school funding is going to be impacted. There's a person right now trying to put one through that says that they want to take away, that you would have a stagnant property tax, and then there would be an income tax that would then offset the cost that the taxpayers are paying. Now, whether or not those things ever come to fruition, somebody wants to put a bill forward, I don't know. So you're not, there's no way to say you will or you won't. And I don't know, Jen, I mean,
That's absolutely correct. We've not seen any simulations of that, because too much is unknown about that.
I think like when I look at this, and especially in our small community, we have such a divide of people who choose to go private, usually like Catholic, St. Michael's, and then we have public. And I never want to offend anybody. I always want to be politically correct, and like I want everybody to choose where they go to school. And I truly do want my friends, my family to choose wherever they want to go to school. However, I do see that in my role, like as a steward of the funds that we have in this district, like it's my responsibility to make sure that we are getting that money. And so I want to make sure that wherever that money is going, that it should be going to public schools. And so I'm going to be standing with the Vouchers Heard Ohio, you know, and I do that because if we ended up going and asking for money in some way, shape, or form, like I want to be able to tell people we've looked in every other place, so before we have to come to you to ask for more money. So that's where I stand.
Obviously, it's a little bit of a lightning rod sort of issue here. I do echo what Ron and Katie just said about, like, you know, we do represent the public school district for this community, and, you know, I think if we don't fight for ourselves, who's going to fight for us? What I want to, there's two things I want to guard against is $2 per pupil, let's just say it's $2,000 approximately, we have 1,000 kids approximately. I don't want to make it sound like that's a nominal amount, like, just $2,000, just, it's like, Jen knows to me that's, I like talking money and I like saving money.
Your own pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing I want to guard against. I also want to guard against, you know, is this going to be a fee that we pay every year for these legal services for the lawsuit? Is it just a one-time thing? Because I don't want this, as these legal things can drag out multiple years. I don't want it to be a $10,000, you know, $8,000, $10,000 bill that we have, that we have to pay. So that's just something, I still want to, while fighting for public schools, in our public school, I still want to be a good steward of our money. Because like Katie did say, the bad part about local control with us is that it's local control financially too. So it's all on us. We don't get much help from the outside, and the help that we do get is not sustainable, and it's also not reliable because it can vary from year to year. So I'm going back and forth between, whether it's just because I don't like it, whether it's going to be, versus it being illegal. I don't know. That's for the courts to figure out. I will say, just a bit of a history lesson, I did find out today this has been going on since the mid-1990s, and it just kind of morphed into where it is now. A couple months ago, guys, we sat around having a knockdown, drag-out fight about, what do we do about our facilities? And, we got to come to the taxpayers for 100% of that bill. Like, we don't get any help. And this money, that pot, $1 billion, whatever it is, that's getting thrown all over the state, I mean, that could help us. It could help the community in terms of upgrades of our brick and mortar. We're not talking operational expense, we're talking brick and mortar. So it's just very, looking at it through that lens, it's just very, very disheartening to hear that's where that money is going to be allocated to from Columbus. So, I've given it a lot of thought. I will support it. Like I said, I just want to make sure that this is not an annual expense that we have, and the only one really winning in this whole thing is going to be the lawyers. That's what I want to guard against in the long run. But, this money, whether it's directly or by proxy, goes from the state straight to these school districts, or to these private schools. And they don't have the same standards that, Mrs. Kogan and her administrative team have to adhere to. They just don't, and it's not right. It's just not right. And they have the ability to turn away students for any shape or for any reason. We don't have that ability, and then we're still expected to thrive, and we're held accountable, right? So I just think it's not a level playing field, and then you're throwing in money that can help our community, and it just doesn't sit well with me. So while I do understand, and I do agree with Ron in regards to sending, nobody loves their children more than their parents. So whatever they want to do, I just don't think that this is the right way to go about doing it. And I'll support helping this lawsuit in any way we can. And it's like I said, it's a small way to do it, but I'll be voting yes on it.
I feel like I'm totally not sold on the situation of, to my knowledge, this lawsuit started in 2022. And so it's been pushed. It was just pushed again. It was supposed to go to court in the fall. It was pushed to 2025. So to my knowledge, it's $2 per student per year. So to your point, if we join now, are we retroactive to pay? And then if this keeps getting pushed, it's not just going to be $2,000. And I then look into, there's 617 school districts in Ohio. Less than 200 have joined this lawsuit. And so what about the other 400 plus? Our formula district, what we just talked about tonight, I don't have confidence that we're going to get any more money. I don't think our kids leave Independence Public Schools because only of the vouchers. They're going to go anyway. And so I just feel like, what is the reason why Brecksville, Broadview Heights, Avon, North Royalton, Revere, Solon, why are they not in this district? Why are they not in this lawsuit? I want more information. I want to understand why, these other 400 plus districts aren't on here. And so, as I totally agree that we are stewards of our money, I just don't have faith in our state giving us more money based on this lawsuit. And I think having this information shows we've since the 90s when we've had, it's been deemed unconstitutional twice, two court districts already. But look at where we're at today. Do we have faith that it's really gonna change? So if we're doing this based on principle, I wanna base this on, I want people to choose independence because we are the best district. And we don't have to worry about being competitive with parochial schools. I want them to choose us because we're the best. And so that's how I feel about it. I don't feel like I'm sold on understanding the full, do we get money? Do we not get money? Is that $9 billion gonna be put to independence? Because this formula district, we get $844, but we just signed that it's $16,000 to educate our kids. So that's how I feel about it. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. My kids did go to parochial schools. I chose Independence High School because of all our opportunities and what we have to offer, and because I do believe that we have the best education. I didn't take voucher money. I could have taken voucher money. I didn't. And so I just want, like, that's where I feel, that's how I feel about it. I didn't know it wouldn't be retroactive since it started in 2022. I don't know where we're going. This information about DeWine and Vales' budget, our whole Department of Education, like, there's so many questions unanswered. There's so many questions unanswered. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, not retroactive, would be annual. The hope would be, because we're kind of joining in at the tail end. The case is scheduled for the spring, so hopefully at that point, there's a decision made. Now, whether the decision is, of course, find in favor and say, nope, it's not unconstitutional, keep it going, or they come back and go, you're correct, it is unconstitutional. And then we see what happens, right, with the rest of the money.
So what's the reasoning? Why are other districts, why is a third of the school districts in Ohio are the only ones going on this? What's the understanding of that?
There are a lot of superintendents, and I don't.
Sorry.
There are some superintendents who don't really know and don't really care about getting involved in advocacy and sitting on webinars and finding out about fair school funding and what the vouchers are doing, and they're just not involved in that. I will tell you that the group that I'm involved in, like the Mike Hamlin and Charlotte, like all those districts are heavily involved in it. We're trying to do legislative breakfasts with these legislators to explain to them about why it is unfair and how it is hurting public schools. I think that's part of it. I think there are other communities that are probably divided, and the board, has 4 people that aren't going to vote for it. That it's been up for the board, and the board just didn't pass it for their own beliefs. They may have 5 carries on the board or 3 carries on the board who believe the same way you do. I don't think that people. I would think that more people, if they understood it and realized what it was doing, would be involved. I just don't know that is out there.
Also, in less populated districts, there is not a level of competition even available, right? I mean, in less populated areas of the state, Northeast Ohio is saturated with students and districts. As you go further down, you don't have that. So, of those districts of the 400, I'd love to know where they are geographically too. I know you referenced some right here in our area, but the district I came from, there was not that much competition to have this be on the radar the way it is here. So I also think composition of your community and availability of different programs to you. There's not always available services.
Jen, you just told us today that the state basically says the value of each of our kids is $834.
Because we're 10%, we only get 10%.
Right? That's my son is worth $834. But if my son were to go to another school, he'd be worth $8,406. And that district, that school, that private school, wouldn't have, the list of rules and regulations that Kelly has to go through is like a New York City phone book, right? And that private school doesn't have those same guardrails, or not as many, I should say. I just don't think it's fair all the way around. Again, I look at it more from a compliance standpoint. Like, okay, you're getting the money, you got to you got to adhere to the same policies that these public school districts do, and it's like they don't, and they're not. It's not a level playing field. And again, you know, like I said, there's a lot I can do with that $1 billion, or a small portion of that $1 billion to take it off the backs of our residents here. So, again, it's a little muddy, but if you just kind of, that's the lens that I'm looking at it through. And, you know.
And to your point of, you know, if it was annual, it would always have to come before you for the vote to continue it. Like, just because it's annual, you would, like, we wouldn't just keep paying, we would come back just like this and go, okay,
Are you
whatever
renewing?
happened, we're up again, do we want to still join? So there would be another opportunity to be like, hey, maybe at that point things have changed, or we've gotten additional information.
I hope it doesn't get to that point, but.
Me neither.
All right, can we go motion to vote?
Second.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Avila?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot to type these in, so I'm writing them as we go. Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mrs. Sears?
I am saying no to all the reasons that I already stated.
And Mrs. Hill?
Yes. Moving into executive session to consider appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee or official. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Carrie, was that you? I
Yes.
apologize. Thank you. Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Oops, I messed up. Mr. Avila?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mrs. Sears?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes. All right, and we will enter in and take no further action afterwards.
Who's
Motion
attending?
to,
And Tom does not need to go in.
Who's attending?
And Jen, you can go into executive session, yes.
Motion to adjourn?
We actually have to do that.
No, you're not adjourning.
Nope, we're not adjourning. Never mind.
You're not adjourning. We're going into executive
New president
session
problems, I'm learning.
at 7:48. And then we'll reconvene, and there'll be, I think at this time you would say there's no action. Well,
Okay.
presuming there's no action planned.
No.
Thank you.
You would
No
say there's
further
no action
action.
planned.
No further action planned after executive session. Thank you.